Alright, well shoot, I had started the video, but unfortunately I lost the first part of it explaining this project, so now I gotta start all over again. Welcome to another video. In this video I have a replacement motherboard for my Compaq Prolinea 575. The reason why we're replacing it today is because I've been having all sorts of problems with the hard drive controller and the floppy controller, or at least apparently. Part of the mess, I'm down in my basement and I don't have much room. So the reason why it needs to be replaced, or why I suspect it needs to be replaced, and the only thing I can think of, besides it just aging and getting old, is that the hard drive controller seems to be failing. It frequently can't seem to start from the hard drive. And the floppy drive just refuses to work at all, and is frequently, it won't even boot off of floppy, so like I can't replace the hard drive, because even if I put in a bootable floppy, it won't boot off the floppy. And of course these floppies are known good bootable floppies. I've used them before, even used them afterwards on another system just to verify that they work, and they indeed work. So something is going on with this computer, and I'm hoping that a motherboard swap will fix the problem. And just a little bit of background, the reason why this computer is in my museum, or in my collection, is because it's my only AMD K5, or at least was my only AMD K5, and that's what I suspect might have caused some damage. I'm not sure. So it's obviously originally a Pentium 75, hence a 575 in the model number. And because I wanted it to be unique in my collection, I went ahead and swapped out the CPU with an AMD K5 PR120 running at 90 megahertz. Now, the AMD K5 wants 3.45 volts, but this Socket 5 system only provides 3.3 volts. It doesn't do split plane voltages like Socket 7, later Socket 7s, even early Socket 7s didn't do split plane voltage. And so I plugged that in and I assumed everything was fine. And it worked well, but only for a few months, and then everything started failing. Now, of course, it could really be that it's just due to age. But I'm going to try replacing the motherboard. I got one cheap off of eBay. And we'll see if it solves the problem at all. I don't know how well this will go. So that's the motherboard, and this is the replacement. It should be an exact replacement. I was trying to find some video memory to upgrade the onboard video chip. It's got an onboard Cirrus Logic. I think it's only got 1 meg. Wouldn't mind upgrading that to 2 megs just for some better color support, but you know, it is what it is. I can't seem to find those chips these days. So I need to remove the old motherboard without bumping the tripod and see if we can get this taken out and replaced. And of course I did add an active fan for the K5, but I have since replaced it with a Pentium 100, which really doesn't need an active cooling solution. Passive cooling would be just fine. And it looks like we have 1, 2, 3 screws as best I can tell, and it should just pop out by pushing that down. I think that looks right. Unfortunately, these use sort of a weird flathead style, whereas Phillips won't work. So I need to go get myself a flathead. I will be right back. But for you, it'll only be a second. Alright, back. Really can't wait until I have a bigger work area where I can do this stuff without having to worry about bumping into everything. Is this a little too wide? Doesn't seem to want to fit properly. And of course, this is what's known as I think it's an NLX style motherboard. You know, you've heard of AT and ATX. There's even a BTX that was released by Intel a few years back. There was two other semi-standards that were on the market. There was NLX and LPX. And if memory serves me right, and I could easily be mistaken, NLX was this style where the main motherboard plugged in as if it were a daughter board. And don't worry, there are other slots. There's ISO slots and PCI slots on the other side of this. As you can possibly see, this isn't very deep. The motherboard is on this side. Everything else is on the other side of the computer. Now let's see here. Did I get everything? Don't fall apart on me now. I'm going to need to keep this battery because I happen to know that the other one is very likely dead. It's been sitting in the warehouse forever. Let's see if I can use this as a fulcrum. Push it up. There we go. There we go. And then it should come right out of there. And there we go. So this is the new motherboard. I should be wearing a anti-static strap. So do as I say, not as I do. I'm going to quickly swap over the memory sticks to the new one, because even during testing we're going to need to have memory in it. Now, this should be 32 megabytes worth. I was trying to make this pretty close to original stock, but do I have this right? It doesn't feel like it's going in. There we go. I was trying to do close to original stock, but at one point I did have Windows 95 on here, and running Windows 95 in 8 or 16 megs of RAM is not fun. In fact, I even have some statistics, some data, I should say, that shows that Windows 95 doesn't perform well as a base OS unless you have at least 32 megs in there. Come on, go in and go down. You can do it. Oh, a little too far out. Interesting. The IO shield seems to be different. Okay, so we got the IO shield all replaced here. It should fit more appropriately. Then I can double check the the CPU settings. But first I want to get this in here. Push down, there we go. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and connect the power connectors. We got the one for the CPU fan. I don't know if I should go back and try the AMD K5, though I don't know if I want to push it. Let's go ahead and put back on the power supply connectors. I'm not going to screw the motherboard all the way in until I go ahead and give this a test run. Oh, hey, look, there's a spider web up there. Everybody else is probably staring at it all along. I even heard that this ISA slot, it's got an extra little connector here. I don't know how well you can see that. It's supposed to be for a special sound card for these Compaq computers. I must have put it upstairs. I was going to show you that I had bought one, but it didn't match the plate in the back, so I couldn't actually install it. So let's go ahead and power it up. Well, first I got to connect everything, and then we'll give it a little quick test run here. Yeah, hard drive is still, I don't know how well the microphone's picking up on that. There we go. It finally spun up. Might have to reboot again if it didn't detect the hard drive. Yeah, let's try one more time. I should, now that the hard drive spun up, I should be able to get to the BIOS partition. That's what I really want to get into. Okay, well, let's boot off the Compaq floppy I have, the setup disk. So just like IBM PS2s, you could boot off a floppy to get to your BIOS. And we need to change all the settings in there. I'm telling you, I have the best content on YouTube. There we go, F10 computer setup, so now I should be able to get in there. Now, what bothers me is that the hard drive also has sort of like a grinding noise, so I really do think it's going. We want to go into computer setup. And what is today? Today is for numlock's not on. 04/01 April Fool's Day 2025. This is not an April Fool's joke though. And the time currently is, I just got off work and drove home a little while ago, so that'd make it 17:24. Well, it did have AM and PM, so maybe I should just do 5:24 PM. I think that was the format it used. Will it accept that? Yeah, that works. Can we accept? Haven't changed power management. So it's currently clocked at 75, so the 100 megahertz is underclocked. I need to change the dip switches for that. It sees all 32 megabytes of memory, so that's good. PCI bus master enabled. Don't have an asset tag. I like to have the numlock Xenon power on. Energy saver mode is going to be off. I don't really need it. I'm good. Don't need VGA snooping, VGA frame buffering. I would have to look those up. The serial port built in, plus the parallel port built in, are good. Any add-in devices, here's the embedded VGA Cirrus controller. You can disable it if you want to use an external PCI video card. I did attempt to do that previously and it did not work out so well. I do have a couple spare chips, so if I can't find that upgraded memory, I can always try doing that again. Now we got the updated motherboard. Not sure how well it'll work out. But okay, so everything looks good. Yes, we want to save those changes. I thought it would go back at the other screen. But I won't bore you with a full spin right scan. We'll consider this the end of the video. I'll play around with the jumpers and get the CPU set appropriately. I'm debating whether to put back into K5 just because I already have a Pentium Classic in my collection. And I wanted to make this one more unique, but I don't know if... It shouldn't have destroyed it. To my knowledge, plugging in a processor that requires more voltage that isn't delivered essentially just undervolts it. And undervolting should be fine. So even though the processor needs 3.45, it should still be able to run at the 3.3 slightly undervolted, and that should be fine. I don't see any reason why the K5 would have destroyed the motherboard. So I really kind of think that it was just due to age, but I'm really unsure, and I'm a little hesitant to try. Maybe I'll overcome my hesitancy and do the upgrade again. But at any rate, that's going to be it for this video. I think it's gone on long enough. I wish I would have been able to keep the first part of the video that I lost, the unboxing of the motherboard. And I know there's parts of this video that are pretty boring. Maybe I'll play around with the YouTube built-in editor to see if I can edit out some of the really boring parts. So if I did, and if I learned how to do it, you won't know what I'm talking about, and they will be edited. Otherwise, if I didn't figure it out, and if you were to watch the whole video all the way through, you'll see the really boring parts that I'm talking about. So anyways, thanks again, and, hope to see you in the next one. And see if